Right, we're recording. So thank you so much for making time to have a chat about your experience about home birth, which ended up being a free birth in lockdown. And I thought it might be really useful to other expectant mums who are being supported to have a home birth in these strange times, to just hear kind of recent first-hand experience. So I've got some so I've got some questions which I posted in the group. I don't know if you had a chance to look at them. And then I wondered if Debs or Megan had any questions, if you could, maybe we could just spend a bit of time going through those as well.
It'd be my pleasure.
Great. I thought Sunny might be in the picture as well, but is he sleeping, or is he with?
He is sleeping. He was going to be. I thought it would be the perfect opportunity to have him with me and show off the real baby that that we're talking about. But he's sleeping, so he might come in halfway through.
Okay, all right, okay, perfect. Well, so yeah, I guess perhaps maybe just starting with telling us about your experience of the NHS midwifery support to your choice and decision to have a home birth in lockdown.
Yeah, okay. Well, initially, before pre-lockdown, I had decided me and my partner had decided that we would have a home birth. And for anyone who doesn't know, Mel was my doula. So when I refer to my doula throughout, I'm talking about Mel. So we had initially planned to have a home birth anyway. And then I guess my experience of the NHS was inconsistent. And it's not to criticise them, because it was obviously a very frightening situation, a global pandemic, which none of us had experienced before. But I definitely felt that panic from them, which wasn't reassuring for me. Initially, they were in support of a home birth because it meant there were less people going into hospital. Initially it was supportive, and then that changed because then the midwifery service, like the home birth service, was withdrawn because I think a lot of their staff were unable to go into work. So it meant all the midwives who were working kind of in the community, that they had to go and work in the hospital. And so that was really frightening, because it was kind of taken away, that it felt like my choice was being taken away. I started to feel the pressure then to go into hospital, and it was kind of sold to me like, oh, you won't be in there very long. People are staying at home for as long as possible and then just going in to have the baby and come back out. But it sounded really clinical, like, birthing your baby is, supposed to be this, well, not supposed to be, but you're supposed to have the opportunity to make it, special, and it's potentially life-changing. So for it to be treated as though you were just popping in to have a toenail removed, it felt quite harsh. And so yes, speaking to my doula and my partner and talking about my options and at home away from the NHS is what supported me to move forward.
Yeah, it was a very scary time for everybody, and I guess there was lots of firefighting. And then did you tell the it sounds like your decision-making process was because you wanted to experience the preciousness of a birth experience, and try and remove the clinicalness of it, for want of a better word. So did you speak to the midwives about your decision to have a home birth, whether the home birth service is open or not?
Yes, I did. And I was aware that that wasn't something that they would encourage. However, they were happy to run through with me, like, what happens if. So I did speak to them about, well, because at that time they weren't sure whether the home birth service would be reintroduced. It could have been reintroduced the next day. That's how interchangeable things were at that time. So we did run through the scenario of, well, what if I have the baby at home and there isn't a midwife present? Like, what happens? And the midwife that I had, she was very happy to answer those questions, and it did seem like without judgment as well. Like, she she explained what would happen and what they would expect, and so how that a midwife wouldn't be available, and if I wanted midwife support, that I would have to go into the hospital. But also that if there was an emergency, like a medical emergency, then we could call an ambulance. And just working out what the options were, and that also at any point I could change my mind, which gave me this like sense of freedom, that it's okay to change your mind. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead with Freebirth, but if half an hour into it I think, no, I don't want to do this anymore, I can change my mind at that point and go into the hospital. And they were supportive with just explaining what was available.
Okay, that's great. That sounds quite empowering.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Okay, I know who your community midwife is, and she is great.
Yeah.
So it doesn't sound like you had to really do much kind of navigating of the system to kind of have your wishes acknowledged and respected, or would you say that sounds about right, or do you think you had to?
Yeah. I'm just going to look at what I wrote. Got something in my eye. Yeah, so I guess what I did, and what I would say to anyone who's considering is, like, take the support that's offered that you want. So when I went into it, because my first birth with my first child, I wasn't aware of free birth or home birth really, or that I had a choice in birth. And so I went down the road of just doing exactly what they asked of me, assuming that that was what was right for me, that they knew what was right for me. So realizing that I had a choice was kind of a big part of the whole journey of pregnancy and giving birth, because I was able to check in with, is this what I want to do? So, they wanted to do a growth scan at one point, and I was very confident that there was an issue with the way my baby was growing. I had a very big bump, and it was just because my bump was not going in line with how they expected it to go. So those kinds of things where, and I questioned rather than just accepting. I did go for the growth scan in the end, but I did lots of questioning on, why do you want me to do this, and finding out if it was necessary, because I was going to be putting myself at risk going into a hospital. So, and what they did was, they did listen, but I did have to be firm, and I did have to question them. And I would go back to my partner and talk about it to try and find out, like, work out, is this right for me, or am I just going ahead with this because that's what they think is right? So I think they didn't, I didn't necessarily feel like they judged me too much for going against the grain of what they expected of me. And I didn't feel like they were manipulative in any way. to try and get me to do things their way. But they were taken aback by me questioning them and by me sometimes declining, what they offered.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, how did they experience all your questions? Because I think a lot of people don't ask questions for many different reasons. And so I wonder how used to questions they are. So
Yeah, I think I was, again, fortunate that my community midwife was very supportive, and I guess she got used to me asking questions by the end. So she expected it, and she was fine with it. And anyone over the phone or anyone new, again, they were a little bit taken aback, and sometimes there was like a question of like just checking that I was saying no, that I was declining the service. So it's just, I would say, making sure you're confident in your decision. Yeah, and kind of before you go forward with what you're going forward with, if that makes sense.
yeah, informed decision making.
Yeah.
It's great to hear that you had a positive experience in feeling supported, and that you felt empowered in your decision making. How was it when you were, and I mean, I don't even really think that you and I have chatted about this much, but how was it going into labor and laboring and knowing that it was just going to be you and Tom, and at some point me, but that there wasn't going to be any medical support? How did you prepare for that, and how did it feel in the moment?
So I had to deal with a lot of fear initially, and like fear of what if this happens. And so I felt like I did preparation before, and I have to give credit to you, Mel, because you really supported me with this, and understanding how much preparation to do to feel empowered, but to not go overboard and look at all the different scenarios that are possible and then recreate some new fears. So I really tuned into what I felt like I needed to know, and then what I didn't need to know. So I didn't really talk to family members about my decision, because I knew that they would be frightened, because it was, not something they were used to. So I spoke to people who I felt could give me like information that I needed. And so I read lots of information and, I guess, supportive material on the power of a woman's body, and how we're designed to give birth, and it's a natural process that our body's supposed to go through. If we get pregnant, it's a natural process. And so part of my process was to gain faith in my body and understand my body, and learn to listen to my body when there was something that wasn't feeling right. And that empowered me to trust that, if there was something going wrong and one of my what ifs was becoming a reality, that I would know, and then I could then make a decision on what needs to happen. And so I went through that with you, and I went through that with my partner Tom, and he was incredibly supportive in just trusting my body too. He trusted my body too, and he trusted that it could go through the process, and that if for some reason something came up, he would know what to do. And we kind of put in place what would happen if I was at a point, because I remembered in my first pregnancy where I hit a point where I thought, I can't do this anymore, like my body's not going to do it. I was in too much pain, and I remember at that time the midwife saying to me in the hospital, well, I think she said it after. She said that that's part of labour, and you get to that point. And when I heard you saying that, I knew that you were near the end, and that stuck with me into my second labour, and was reassuring. And I shared that with my partner. So it was kind of preparation that supported me with it, and listening to my body. And so it was quite exciting initially. It felt really special to be set up at home and to be, giving birth at home, because I'd had a difficult experience the first time in hospital, and I'd felt really stressed about being surrounded by lots of different people. And I'm a homebody. I like my home. I feel comfortable at home. So it was initially really exciting, this thought of like, bringing my baby into the world at home. And we had a water birth. We had like the pool set up, and we'd let you know, and we knew that you were there on call, ready. And as the pain started to get worse, as the contractions started to get closer together, and I just felt like I needed you there. I needed that extra support. And Tom called you, and that was like this extra level of reassurance. And it was the fear still came up, like the fear just didn't go away, but because I'd got contingencies, and felt like I'd prepared, like mentally, and practically, I was able to keep the fear at bay.
Yeah, and I'm just remembering, I mean, obviously, there, like you said, that your midwife had said, with your first birth, how there is a point where you just think, I can't do this, and there's a wobble. And so I'm just remembering the kind of wobble with Sunny's birth, when that transition period started. And how it was really just about, we just had a talk, a bit of a chat, but I don't even actually know if you remember that. So
I do. Yeah, I do remember, and it was something quite simple, which I had not thought about. It was, and you'd said for me to move my hips in a different way, and it was the chat, and then that broke my waters and enabled the birth to move on, because I think I was at a point where I was a bit stuck.
It's amazing how, like, for me, I kind of think like I didn't do much, but just the presence of somebody familiar and who can kind of reflect back what you're saying, and kind of walk alongside you, can be so incredibly powerful, just to kind of remind you of how awesome you are, in that moment.
Yeah, it was incredibly empowering. Even like at parts you weren't even in the same room as us, you were round the corner, but just like you said, having your presence there, knowing you were there. And I think for Tom, he said the same for him, like he felt a lot of pressure, because he wanted to support the free birth, the home birth journey. But he felt like it was his responsibility to kind of take care of me if something went wrong. So it was really encouraging to have your support there, and all the experience that you've had at previous births gave us confidence that that we would be able to work out what, where to go if one of the what ifs came up.
So there was a bit of a what if. Do you remember after Sunny was born? It was a very, very long time for your placenta to be delivered. So what were you thinking or feeling when when we realized this has been a long time waiting? What were your thoughts and feelings at that point?
So I think I'd got stuck. I'd got stuck in a bit of like a bit of a freeze, like trauma freeze, because my first birth with my daughter had been quite traumatic, especially after. Um, and because of the build up of the birth, and then he was there, I think I wanted the pain to end straight away. And then when it didn't, I was kind of stuck in this, like, just really uncomfortable. And there was a lot of blood as well, wasn't there? So I was frightened, but I wasn't aware that I was frightened. And there was like a turning point for me. And again, this was really helpful because it's something that I hadn't thought of. But when you said about how the placenta had been in for a long time, and I wasn't even aware of that. So again, just having you there and knowing, just being able to relax, that you were supporting with those kinds of things, you were just keeping your eye on, like, the things to be aware of. Yeah. And when you said it's been in a while, if it doesn't come out, you know, you might have to go into hospital. So realizing what my choices were, it kind of empowered me on a level that I can't explain, because my body, I don't know if you remember, but it literally, you said that and then I went onto all fours and it just came out within minutes.
Yeah. And then your back pain suddenly disappeared that you'd been really struggling
It
with.
did. Yeah. Yeah. So I think my body had been trying to get it out, but I was too frightened to, like, feel any more pain. So yeah, again, that really helped. And just trusting the process that your body's going through. I felt like my body does know what to do. And I did have to keep coming back to that, because I kept going, going into fear, and just knowing that fear is normal, but then coming back to that trust that your body knows what to do. And if it needs any help, you'll know.
So do you think there was quite a lot of self-talk that you were kind of, like, internal dialogue that you were perhaps having, like, when you were feeling that fear or feeling a bit frightened, kind of actually having to remind yourself and say, like, okay, I am scared, but I trust the process, or kind of playing things out? Did you find that useful?
I did find that useful, yeah, and I think the work that I do with myself, I do a lot of meditation and supporting myself and my inner child, and yeah, so I think all that work that I do day to day supported me with this, in knowing that it's okay to feel all those feelings, and I think being vocal with them. I remember at one point in the pool saying quite a lot, I'm really scared, but I know my body can do this. And that really helped, just like release the emotion, just acknowledging what I was going through, rather than trying to contain it and keep it all hidden and pretend that, you know, everything wasn't, you know,
Yeah,
overwhelming, when it was at times.
yeah,
But it also kept
absolutely.
me really present in my body and what was happening.
Mm. Yeah, um, I think it's really important to hear you, just to hear you remind us of just, you know, the work on ourselves is ongoing, and such a big part of actually regaining trust in ourselves and being in touch with our bodies. And because so much of our society tells us not to trust ourselves, so
Yeah.
it is a scary thing to then allow ourselves to go with, you know, with whatever our body wants us to do. Well, without, you know, go with the
hmm
flow. I don't like that phrase, but yeah, for want of a better phrase. Yeah.
Yeah, that was something I noticed about the NHS, that I felt like they didn't have as much faith in my body as all the books and information that I'd been reading elsewhere. Um, it felt like the NHS wanted to control the birth as much as possible so that it could go smoothly, as opposed to trusting in the body that it can go through that process.
Do you have any thoughts on or ideas on why that might be?
Well, I don't know. I guess it keeps costs down. Like it's a way for them to you know keep support, offer support, but keep it limited. I guess if people are going into labour for days, I know that was one of the reasons why the home birth service was taken away, because they didn't have the level of midwives available that they would need I think that was it, sorry. It changed so that second time mums, the home birth service was available to second time mums, but not to first time mums, because they didn't have the resources to provide a midwife for a long labour, and they assumed that all first births tended to be longer than second births. Yeah, and I guess they feel that that's the way to support, I think it's to reduce pain, so they want to reduce the process of childbirth, because it can feel incredibly painful, but it's also can be incredibly empowering and an incredibly beautiful experience. So sometimes that suffocation of control is not only taking away, the painful bits, but also the beauty of it as well. And yeah, I found that reading the books that I read, I was kind of ready for the pain, like, okay, bring it on. I'm sure when it comes, I'll be saying, stop, I can't take any more. But initially I was ready for it, because I was also wanting to experience the beauty as well.
And was that your experience?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Yeah, it was incredible. In Ina May's book, Ina May Guide to Childbirth, she talks about going to a level where the contractions can almost feel orgasmic. And although they didn't, I didn't have an orgasm in birth, as in labour, but they definitely reached this level where it was like I felt my body had just opened up so much that I can't describe the feeling. And because I'd heard someone else talk about it in an empowering way, it was exciting, it wasn't frightening. Yeah, and I feel like that the NHS don't always allow that to happen.
Yeah,
perhaps they're frightened too.
Yeah. How amazing. I was determined to have an orgasmic birth with my second. I didn't, but but I do think, like, it's incredible that some women do experience, such amazing sensations. So yeah, and I think a lot of our fear, like you used the word suffocates, can inhibit the beauty of that transition to motherhood, the birth of a new baby, but the birth of a mother as well. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Emma, I'm aware that you said you were only available for half an hour, and we have reached our half an hour. I'm just wondering, do you have time, 5 minutes, to take any questions that Megan or Debs might have?
Yeah, sure. I'm going to pop and see what Sunny's doing. So if you can just give me a minute and I'll check that he's okay.
Sure, thank you. Debs and Megan, I know you're both on mute, so if you want to just unmute yourselves to ask any questions, then please feel free.
I don't have any specific questions. I just wanted to bask in the glory of a woman who's done free birth, because it's just like, wow.
Wait for it to come back. Wait for it to come back and you can tell her.
I also just wanted to make clear that I'm a super, super free birth friendly midwife, and I wanted to say it before so that Emma didn't feel like she needed to censor anything, or, you know, be careful what she says about other midwives or about free birth. I'm 100% comfortable with supporting free birth, so you know, I just wanted her to know that, but I guess she still doesn't. She's not here right now, so I'm not sure why I'm saying it.
Oh, it has the gorgeous baby.
Get that job.
Oh, she can't hear. We were just doting on how gorgeous he is.
Oh, he is. He's currently eating his hand, so he's,
like
he's
eating
definitely
himself
hungry.
Inspiration. Emma, I was just going to say that I'm a 100% free birth friendly midwife, and I sort of want to say it before so that you didn't feel like you needed to censor yourself or be careful what you say. So, but I'm totally on board with free birth. I've translated a book on the matter, and I'm totally on board. So yeah, don't.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, no, I thought you were, because I contacted you or the
did
company that you
you?
work for just before.
It was
when
just
we were
after
looking. Yeah, we're looking at like contingency plans, and so I wondered.
Yeah, and I couldn't take anybody on, so yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. Sorry. That's okay. Yeah, it was meant to be how it happened.
Worked out beautifully, I guess. So that's good.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. Well, yeah, I can answer some questions if you. Now I've got Sunny. If anyone has any questions.
Oh, I have a question actually. I didn't think I did. But were the midwives happy to support you in notifying the birth and things?
Yeah, do you mean afterwards?
Yeah, so because births need to be notified within 36 hours, and sometimes women come to independent midwives to do that because they feel awkward about contacting the NHS. But I suppose they were aware that you possibly were going to free birth. So
yeah, I think because of the situation, because of COVID and because of lockdown, they were much more understanding than they would have been previously. Ooh.
Interesting.
Him. Yeah, so they were, again, there was that shock of like, oh, you gave birth 2 days ago and you're only just calling up. But yeah, it's just momentarily, and then, as I said, I think once you're confident in your decision and knowing that what's right for you, then yeah, they were supportive, and they offered the services, and we took what we felt we wanted and we needed, and we politely declined what we didn't. I had a tear, and I'm not suggesting that, you know, people don't get stitches, but for me, I'd had stitches the first time, and so I was able to make that comparison, and I felt like I didn't want any and I didn't need any, and I did some research and I, you know, monitored it closely, and they did try to persuade me to have stitches, but again, you know, there was no pushy behaviour. It was just, we recommend, they will share their recommendation, and then yeah, you can politely decline.
So Emma, did they do? So I'm just thinking, did they come and do a home visit to do the postnatal checks?
Okay. They did, yeah. They came. They came to do the postnatal check, and there was something that Sunny's oxygen levels weren't matching up to, again, their chart, and they wanted us to go in to get his oxygen levels tested. And again, this is not me suggesting that you know, mums go against that. It's doing what's right for you. And for us, we had just no concerns over Sunny. Like, he was thriving, and we felt like it would be more stressful for us to go into hospital to get his oxygen levels checked. So yeah, we decided that we wouldn't, and that we would just keep an eye on him keep an eye on ourselves. And then they did offer something else, like an in-between, which initially they'd said it's not available, like you have to come into the hospital. So yeah, I think just again realizing, like, remembering that you've got a choice. You've always got a choice, and that's what you always supported us with, Mel, as well. Just remembering that there's always a choice.
Yeah. You are awesome. Oh, that's great. Have you got any more questions, Debs?
I'm just glad, because York is quite sort of social services happy in terms of reporting people when they don't adhere to recommendations and things. So I'm really glad that you didn't get any of that.
No,
I think it's probably dependent on midwife, but I've had it too many times with clients now.
Okay.
They have declined care, that they get coerced into accepting care by way of social services threats. If you don't accept this, then we'll have to report you to social services, and of course you don't want that, so it might be worth just accepting what we offer you.
Wow.
So York are really famous for that, and much more happy than other trusts to do that. So I think it very much depends on who they feel it will fly with, and if it's not going to fly, they're not going to necessarily try it. But it's I always it's always difficult, because I never know when to warn people of this, because it instills fear, obviously.
Yes.
But also it's really important to be ready for it if it happens, so that you can know what to do about it. But I'm glad that you didn't get any of that. So I think many things have changed during COVID, and that appears to have fallen by the wayside a little bit, because I guess they're realizing that women are going to choose whatever the hell they want. Within the context of having their choices really eroded. So I hopefully that will teach some lessons, in allowing women to make their own choices. But who knows? We'll see, I guess.
Yeah, no, I didn't experience any of that.
Good. I'm really glad.
Which, that's quite shocking.
Yeah, it's really ugly when it happens, and it's not great. So I'm really glad that you were well supported, and it sounds like you were super well supported, which is really great.
I was. I guess.
York, relatively free birth friendly, because I think there has been a lot of free birthers in York, so they know what to do now. They don't panic, which is great. So
I didn't tell my midwife that it was like the plan, because I felt like she didn't need to know. We just spoke about contingencies, and so I said, what happens if? I questioned her, so that, just, I guess, as a reminder that it was my birth, and that I was choosing their help as opposed to them controlling something that was happening for me. And I would say, if that there is any threats like that, go and get support, like ask if Mel's your doula, or just go and ask, and find out what your choice is before you feel pushed into something.
I'll just throw loads of information at you.
Oh, and out of interest, how long did your placenta take
to come out? Like, it was minutes.
Oh, okay.
It was, you mean like hours. That whole time? Oh, no, I think it was an hour. You mean when it was in?
Like from you were saying it was taking a long time to come out. Just interested, because I like to hear the parameters of what is normal for people, because that is really getting eroded with the limitations that hospitals put onto women. And I mean, in my experience, placentas take 2-3 hours sometimes. I mean, we've had a 9-hour placenta. So that can take a really long time, but you just don't hear about that much anymore. So I like to hear the variance in people's experience.
Yeah, mine was an hour, I think.
Oh, okay, so normal,
I think it was more that my body was incredibly uncomfortable. Like I couldn't sit down, I couldn't lay down. So I think Mel like tapped into the fact that my body needed to release it, but that I was kind of holding on to it in some way.
Yeah, I think that's quite common to hold on to it.
Yeah.
Especially if previous times were difficult, previous births were difficult, or experiences were difficult, or if birth was quick or particularly shocking, then oftentimes bodies hold on to placentas for longer than we think they should.
It's a really good reminder, actually, that so thank you for sharing that, because like you said, all it took was Mel saying, maybe let the placenta go. Okay, you know, rather than oh, TikTok, it's been an hour, so now, you know, we need some kind of intervention. That actually it might just be a have a chat and, you know, shift a bit thing.
I think sometimes to remind people to shift to release is really helpful.
Yeah, that was like the process of labour as well, when I'd gotten a little bit stuck in labour and was ready to move on to the next phase, but hadn't realised. Mel's prompt again helped there.
I remember what it was, but anyway, whatever works.
I really like that you said about fear and fear being normal. I think that's really, really important to remember, because we have a lot of focus in pregnancy, particularly about elimination of fear. And realistically, it's not possible to eliminate all fear. It's not going to happen. And it's such a source of stress for so many women, you know, to let go of all fear, and, you know, let's eliminate your fear, let's work through your fear. And it's great to address fear and to talk about it, and to try to maybe put some of what is scary to rest, especially if it's irrational stuff or stuff that one doesn't have to be afraid of. People hold really legitimate fears from previous births, from, you know, from life, from all sorts of other things, and it's usually not possible to just let go of those things, because they're really real things for people. And just to work on sort of incorporate them into your mindset is much more helpful than trying to like push them away. And you know, it's quite helpful. His face. It's quite helpful to have fear, I think. It sometimes really helps to, I mean, it keeps us on our toes, which is really good if you have got full responsibility for your own experience, which you do in free birth. But also it just gives us really important signals. You know, sometimes fear increases suddenly, and that's a really important thing to be mindful of, because sometimes it can mean that something is not going right.
You don't want to be eliminating the fear. You want to.
Oh, bless him.
You're on video, Sunny.
But I just like that focus on fear being normal, and I think it really is. And good to acknowledge that, I think. So
Megan, would you like to say anything before we close?
I just wanted to say thank you for sharing your experience, because I didn't have any specific questions. free birth is something I toyed with, and I just wanted to hear about it and just basically bask in the glory of what you've done. Because I think it's incredible. And and just thank you for just a couple little things you said that are really good reminders, like we are choosing what support we want or not from the NHS. It's our pregnancy and our birth, rather than them being in control. Because I think, like, you have, at least currently, got a fairly supported, fairly seemingly non-judgmental community midwife. And I'm kind of pinning my hopes on her showing up at the door rather than someone else. but that reminder of, you know, you don't have to accept anything you don't want, no matter what they say, because like you said, it's they want to control the situation for a way that works for them, but we know that our bodies were made to do this. And there's a lot of reminding everybody we all have to do that. So yeah, I just wanted to say thank you. It's really incredible to hear your story.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks, Megan.
Okay, well, Emma, thank you so much, and it was lovely to see little Sunny again, and hopefully I'll be able to see you in real life really soon.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, with good weather, perhaps we can do a socially distanced park meetup or something.
That would be lovely. Yeah. Are you joining us on Sunday at the meditation?
And we'll need to see if there's anybody else in the group who would like to join as well. But
Yeah. Brilliant.
Great.
Well, thank you for providing me with this opportunity to talk about my birth again. It's been lovely. It's nice to relive.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, everybody, have a great weekend.
Okay. And you. Bye.
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 Bye.